Yeah, from a systemic perspective and a family constellation perspective, we also know that our relationship with the earth, our relationship with grounding, is an extremely important part of our well-being. And I think you naturally discovered that as the young child, that this is a safe place. It made you feel good. So that is for me a beautiful part of the narrative.
Yes,
That
but
your
then
heart.
comes the time where I go to boarding school. And that freedom is no longer available.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, that's a massive loss. And then comes that massive loss of my connection with earth, my connection with nature, into a convent. And I always say that must have been the most confusing time for this little girl, because now she's taught 3 different religions. The convent is Catholic, run by Irish nuns. And I explained a little bit about the belief system of the Irish nuns earlier. I was baptized Lutheran, so I had to go to the Lutheran church, and we were given Lutheran classes in school, religious classes. Most or a big part of the pupils in the school were Jewish, because it was a good education. So I always looked at these different religions and I thought, there's only one God. Why do we have to have different religions?
Yeah.
So my questioning started when I started going to school, because there was no need for questioning earlier.
Yeah.
The questioning is, who and what is God? And I think it's those questions that drove me into looking for answers, because I couldn't find it in the religious teachings that we were given. I would visit the Catholic Church, especially during the holidays, when I went to church with the nuns, because I was the only 1 or 2 only boarders in school. So I went to the Catholic Church because it was right next door. I often went home with the Jewish girls and observed what they were doing. And for me, it was, everybody's praying to a God out there, but if it's all the same God, if it's all one, why are we doing all these things that are in different methods, in different rituals? And for me, I actually, when I was adult, there was a long time I didn't want to do any rituals, because for me, what do you need to do the rituals for? For me, what I had learned is God is omnipresent. What does omnipresent mean? And for me, that was a very, very long search for an answer. However, when I spoke in my family about we all have one God, and you come across different religious cultures, you're seen as an enemy. I could never understand. What is it that they're seeing that I'm not seeing? Or what is it that I'm not seeing that they're seeing? So for me, it was this constant question, this constant confusion. And it did grieve me a long time, because it created divides. It created, for me, religion was the first biggest divide between my birth father and myself. And for me, then, eventually it created divides between friends, and it actually eventually created a divide in my own family with one of my children. And I could never understand it. So when I started studying traumatology, one of the big, shall I say, good news items was that trauma works across all religions. It doesn't have a difference between one or the other religion. And in fact, I worked with people of different religions, and at the time of trauma, they would normally be, I'm angry with God, or there is no God, how could God let it happen to me? And there was this complete disconnect to God. And when we had finished our trauma sessions, they could reconnect to God. Whatever the religion was, whatever their belief system was, they could reconnect themselves into their belief system and carry on from that. So what I learned from that is trauma is a massive disconnector, and it doesn't matter which religion you belong to.
Right.
A lot of coaches I'm observing are looking at a spiritual route in coaching. And for me, that is whatever you want to do is whatever you want to do. For me, that didn't work because I didn't want the spiritual route to be another belief system that I had to follow. I needed to find answers as to this omnipresent God. It had nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with spirituality. But when I discovered family constellations and the field of consciousness, or at the time when I studied, the morphogenic field, as Rupert Sheldrake mentioned it, for me, that made sense. And then when quantum physics became more known, that made even more sense. The fact that we are just energy, and we are just an energy with a body, whether it's soul with a body or body with a soul, whichever way you want to call it, we are just energy. And we're working in the field of energy. And I think that is why I feel at home with this work.
Yeah.